Hello everyone, and welcome to this quick video review of the Persuasive essay to help you get ready for your English 2 EOC. I just want to review a few things with you about pre-writing and how to plan out your ideas and how to really make that into a successful essay and make sure that we address that prompt in a persuasive way. So let's get started. The first thing I want to review with you is just how to kind of go about setting up your persuasive essay. So just some things to think about when you first read that prompt, because what I would really like you to do is get your test booklet on test day and turn straight to the essay prompt. Go straight to it, read it, think about it, and start your pre-writing. That's the first thing you want to do when your brain is fresh, you have time to think and really plan it through. So don't rush it, but start it from the beginning of the test. So just some things to think about when you're creating this claim or thesis. You could do something with facts or definitions, right? Things that have already happened or happening now or will happen. So you could use facts from history, facts that you read in the newspaper or saw on the news, anything like that. If you needed to look up a word in the dictionary for this definition that was in the prompt, you can definitely do that. Think about cause and effect. Most topics on the persuasive essay portion of the test really do have effects. So think about what are the effects of this idea in the prompt. And I'll show you an example of that in just a few minutes. Look at the value. Okay, why is it important to us as humans? Why should this topic that's in the prompt be important to me? Why is it valuable? Or is there a solution? Is there some kind of solution that you could offer, some kind of call to action that you could give your reader for this issue that's being presented to you? So these are just kind of frames of thinking about how to address the prompt. The next thing you want to remember is that you have to have evidence in a persuasive essay. I don't really want to call them examples. Examples are more expository. Evidence really is more of a persuasive technique. So when you think of the word evidence, I want you to think about things like facts, like we mentioned earlier, historical facts, things that have actually happened in real life or that have happened to you in real life. You might refer to experts. That's going to be kind of tough because you don't really have an expert available to you, but you could use a quotation. Usually there's some kind of quotation or information in the box on your prompt, so you could definitely use that. Again, defining or stating the meaning of a word or phrase, what it means to you, giving your own personal definition or a dictionary definition. Statistics is another one that's going to be kind of difficult because you don't have those available to you unless it's on the prompt. Examples that provide powerful illustrations to support facts. So those could be several different kinds of examples, like an anecdote, which is, remember, just a personal experience or personal story that illustrates your point. Use those emotional appeals. They have to be carefully chosen, but you want to get a reaction from your reader, either positive or negative, but you want a reaction, so don't be afraid to appeal to the emotions of the reader. You can give some counter arguments that give reasons to disprove opposing positions, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. And you can use that call to action, right? Urging your audience to do something. So these are all types of evidence that you can use. So if you're struggling to come up with reasons or evidence, think about this list and try to pull something from it. The last thing before we look at a sample prompt is just some persuasive and emotional language. Remember, the big difference between persuasive and expository a lot of times is the language. We are trying to persuade our reader to believe something, to agree with us, to think the way that we think. So in order to do that, we have to be a little bit more emotional and a little bit more exaggerated sometimes than we would if we were just explaining a concept. So I highlighted some words on this list that I like, just simple words that you can add into your writing to make it sound more persuasive. For example, best, definitely, effective or most effective, extremely. It is extremely important to blank. It is highly effective to blank. Most importantly, we should do this. It is truly important to do this. It is very important to do this. Or maybe you want to go more negative. We should never do this. It could have severe and harmful consequences if we do this. I strongly disagree with this idea. It would be terrible. So again, there's kind of that difference you can hear in the tone of my voice that those words have emotion connected to them. So don't be afraid to use those kind of words in your writing. I want to see things like that, heavily emotional and persuasive words. The other important vocabulary words to remember when you're writing persuasively are those transition words that kind of extend what you're saying and extend those examples and introduce them to your reader. So don't be afraid to use things like, for example, as a result, all this evidence points to, all this suggests that. In addition, on the other hand, however, I just highlighted several here, but these can really help introduce your evidence so that your reader can clearly understand what it is you're arguing. And then when you get through all of your evidence, you can come down and use something like one of these concluding words. So these are great words to use when you're transitioning from one piece of evidence to another, or when you're trying to introduce your final points and your conclusion. So refer to this chart for help with that. Okay, so just very quickly, let's look at a sample prompt. This is a prompt you've seen before, I'm sure. This was the prompt on the English 2 test last year. Write an essay stating your opinion on whether it's better to dream big or be realistic. And the thing I really like about this prompt is you really had a lot of great vocabulary to help you answer the question. So all I did with this highlighting tool right here, 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 and here is highlight for you all the words that you could have used in your essay. So even though this is the prompt, and that's why I highlighted the whole statement, and it's really important, you do have to have these words in there. But look at all the other words you could have tied in. For example, the prompt tells us someone who dreams big is considered idealistic, right? Well, what is idealistic? Well, what if you had no idea? Well, up here in the box it tells you. Their plans are often quite ambitious, meaning they kind of have big plans. So it's hard for them to accomplish smaller goals. Like if I just said, I'm going to pass my math test tomorrow, that's a pretty concrete, smaller goal. If I said, I'm going to make 100 on every single math test for the rest of my life, that's pretty idealistic. So again, understanding the prompt is extremely important. So this information is all here to help you. So please read it. You have lots of great vocabulary here that you can work with. So remember these words: idealistic, practical, realistic, and dream big. Those are all going to come up in the sample essay here in just a minute. Now, besides just giving you the information for your writing task, you also have some reminders down here. These are to help remind you of how you're going to be graded. This is kind of like your rubric. So don't forget, you have to state your position. Your thesis statement is something you will be graded on or scored on. Using appropriate organization. So again, that's where planning becomes very important. Providing specific support for your argument. Again, very important in your body paragraphs. Choosing your words carefully. Again, that's why I mentioned those persuasive words. And don't forget to edit your writing for grammar, mechanics, and spelling. So that comes from the proofreading piece. Okay, so we're going to practice all of those things in just a second. So planning and pre-writing. This is where you're going to get your organization, right? Your thesis statement and those details that you're going to use as your evidence to support that thesis. So you have two choices when you're testing. You can use the 2 blank pages in your test booklet. It will tell you which pages those are. Or you can raise your hand and ask your test administrator for a piece of scratch paper. So either one is fine, but use paper to do your planning. Do not start writing on the lined paper in your answer document. I want you to use the paper in your test booklet or scratch paper. So you can very easily draw these 3 boxes. You don't have to draw all the lines. Just draw a box for the beginning, draw a box for the middle, and draw a box for the end. Okay, so those are the 3 boxes I want to see when you're planning. And that's going to help you plan out your beginning, middle, and end of your essay. So what does that look like? Well, let's say I'm not really sure what I want to write for my thesis. I don't really know, but I kind of have some ideas. So before you write your thesis, think about what your position really is. Which position is going to be the easiest to write about? What evidence can you use to support your position? Is that evidence really specific? So this writer decided to do some brainstorming about her dad. So she's going to use a personal anecdote, right? A personal story. But look at the word she uses. He missed out on his idealistic dream. I highlighted that because it was from the prompt. Because he thought an easily achievable practical dream was the best idea. Practical dream was also in the prompt. And then some emotional words like passion, create a light in his eyes. He has cursed himself to never achieving his big dream. So look at those emotional persuasive words. That's what I want to see. So I know this writer's going to use an anecdote. So in order to do that, we need to set that up with a thesis statement. So here's some brainstorming on an example or some evidence, and now I want to go back and write my thesis because now I have my body paragraph details. Everyone has a dream or a wish patiently sitting in their mind to be achieved. They can be practical, easily reachable with a small jump and a grab, or they can be idealistic, possibly requiring you to grow wings to achieve it. Practical dreams are great, but how can you continue life happily if you're looking into the immediate present and not the future? Okay, so this thesis is actually kind of a question, but look at the words from the prompt. Dream, idealistic, practical. So all of those came from the prompt. So please let the prompt help you. But here it is. Practical dreams are great. You know, because some people think it's okay to just be practical. But, so there's that key word. But you're going to be happier in life if you look to the future, right? Look to more big dreams. So this writer is going to be talking about why it's better to dream big. And then, of course, don't forget the conclusion. The so what, right? That's kind of where the value question comes in. Why is this valuable to me? So here again, she talks about her father's big dream, idealistic dreams, practical dreams, dream, practical dreams, idealistic dreams. Okay, so my point here is the controlling idea in this entire essay is dreams. So I should see whatever word is mentioned in the prompt should be mentioned in your essay. So don't forget to emphasize that point. So idealistic dreams are big, but conquer so much more than thought possible. Okay, so remember that's kind of her driving home point, right? Well, the so what? You can achieve much more than you think is possible if you dream big. Now you finish planning. So now you can go back and revise. So I want you to think about adding more details to your evidence, going back and adding in some more persuasive vocabulary, okay, kind of from the chart that we talked about, or going back to add a concession, just like she did right here. Practical dreams are great because some people think that, right? People on the other side think practical is better. So here is a concession. Practical dreams are great, but dreaming big is even better. So you can go back and add something like that using one of these sentence stems. So lastly, rough draft, revise, and then take a break. After you finish revising your rough draft, leave the essay alone for a little while. Tackle some of the reading passages, do some multiple choice, just leave it alone. Once you finish the reading section, you can now come back to your essay and reread it. This way you've had time to process, you can think about what you've written, and then you can make the necessary changes like proofreading, your grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes, things like that. So give yourself a break, do the reading section, and then come back and make any final changes you'd like to your essay. Then don't forget, you have to write your final draft on the 26-line paper in your answer document. So we always have to do that final step, the final draft. After writing the final draft, then you can complete the revising and editing multiple choice questions. I hope this review helped you and answered some of your questions you might have about persuasive writing on the EOC, and I wish you the best of luck.